What's up everyone, it's Kelly and today I've got another favorites video for you. Today we're talking about my top 5 favorite collections of 2024. This is something of a tradition that I've been doing at the end of every year. Basically, I just go through the year and pick out all of the best collections that came out, all of the color stories that inspired me the most, the polishes I wore the most, the themes that I enjoyed the most, and put them into a list for you. And if you're familiar with my favorites videos, you probably know that it's never just 5 collections. We also have some honorable mentions. And of course, all of the collections that I'm mentioning, I've already done full reviews of, so I'm gonna link all of them down in the description. You can check them out if you're interested. But yeah, without further ado, let's just get into it. Starting off with number 5 on my top collections of 2024, we have the Starly Heartbreak Hues collection for Valentine's 2024. This was actually more of an anti-Valentine's Day collection, and I have to say, this one was just a perfect combination of color and finish to me. We had 9 different colors, there was a variety of different finishes. We had a few really good staple cream colors in there as well. Everything was just really high quality, really gorgeous. I loved the red shades in there for that more traditional Valentine sort of vibe, but there was also some really stunning, unique color combos. The shade Shattered Mirage was definitely a favorite of mine. It was just gorgeous purple and it had these hollow glitters within it as well. I feel like it's so hard for a brand to do that combination right, where you have the shimmer and you also have bigger, chunkier glitters, and I think they really excelled at that one. Crimson Twilight was another standout for me. That was a red shimmer. I thought it was so beautiful. I ended up wearing that a bunch this year, and not just around February. I also feel like that was a really great holiday shade, and just because it's a red and it's a classic kind of color, I feel like that works for any time of year. And of course, the shade Lone Wolf was so stunning. It was a grayish cream and the opacity was absolutely incredible. I just feel like that's such a good staple color. Like I said, all of the creams in this collection I felt were really good staples, but that one just feels like such a perfect neutral that you can use for nail art, you can wear on its own, and I just found myself using it so much this year. But yeah, just in general, a really gorgeous collection. I felt like when I first saw the colors, I wasn't sure if they were gonna go well together, but I feel like there's nice pairings that go well together. Like for example, I think the 2 reds pair nicely together. I think the purples play nicely together. I think the cream shades you can kind of mix and match, so it ended up working out really well. And I thought it was especially interesting because I'm not usually a huge fan of springtime color stories, and this definitely came out in time for spring, and I ended up really loving it. Okay, moving on to number 4 on my list, we have the Orly Melting Point collection, and I believe this was for spring-summer 2024. This was actually part of their breathable line, so it's the one-step system. You don't need base coat or top coat with it, although I will admit I do usually wear top coat with my breathables just to make them last a little bit longer. This was a collection of 6 shimmery polishes that had a little bit of a rainbow flow. They didn't have a green in there, but it still felt like a rainbowy kind of vibe, and I feel like this collection really carried me through the summer. I actually ended up wearing all of these colors on my toes as pedicures this summer. I wore a lot of them on my nails as well. I just felt like I kept going back to them, and I did spend a lot of time in pools this summer, so I felt like having the breathable on my nails did help a little bit. It kind of protected them from the water damage, and it also felt like it was strengthening them, although that might have been placebo, but I do think in general the breathable line does that for me. As far as standout shades, Erupt to No Good, which was the orange shade. By the way, absolutely perfect name. I'm totally in love with that pun. That one really spoke to me. It felt so perfectly fiery for summertime. And then the shade Aloe Métis, which is the purple, that one was just so stunning. Obviously, I'm very partial to purple shades, so whenever I see a really eye-catching one, it always ends up being a favorite. But what I really loved was just how beautifully curated the collection was together. I think all of the colors work really nicely and they work perfectly for Skittles. And I think just for me specifically, they flowed so nicely into each other that by the time I was done wearing one as a manicure or a pedicure, I just wanted to go into the next color because I just thought they, I don't know, flowed really nicely. Next up, we have number 3 on my top 5 favorites, and that is Holo Taco I Need Space collection, which was another one that came out in February 2024. And this was another Valentine's, anti-Valentine's kind of vibe. This was a really interesting collection because it was space themed, but it was more Mars focused. So we actually had a lot more of these reddish, orangey, neutral, I want to say earthy tones, but it was like Marsy kind of tones. And this was such a standout collection to me because I love the Holo Taco collections where they experiment with doing multiple different finishes in a color theme. And I think they absolutely nailed it with this one. The shade Or Bite Me being in their Crushed Hollow formula was absolutely stunning. I love that formula. formula. I'll never get enough of it. I'm Rover It was that gorgeous shimmery red, and that was another one that I ended up wearing a lot. I feel like the beginning of the year for me was very red focused. Actually, to be honest, I think I ended up wearing red a lot this year in general, possibly because my hair has been kind of in the red pink family for a little while now. But yeah, I ended up gravitating towards that so much. I also really loved the shade Solo Mission. I loved that combination of it being that sort of opalescent look with the iridescent flakies in there, but also having a sort of softer, more neutral vibe. But yeah, I think the collection was so beautiful. It was really a unique take on space, and I just loved the quality and the variety of formulas in there. Okay, next up, number 2 on my list of top 5, and this is a tie, and I feel like this is gonna surprise people. I have a feeling that these are the 2 collections that people are probably gonna think are my number 1 of the year, and honestly, it was really hard to decide, but ultimately I did have to decide on number 2 for both of these. The first of which is the Mooncat Join the Dark Side collection that actually just came out this December, and then the Cadillacer Interplanetary collection that came out in March 2024. Now, I loved both of these collections. Let's talk about the Darth Vader one first, the Join the Dark Side collection. It was a collaboration, and this was definitely my favorite Mooncat collab of the year. I am a big Star Wars fan, I'm a big Mooncat fan, and I think in general their collections have really just been absolutely on point this year, but this one especially so. I really loved that the focus of this collection was more on Darth Vader and kind of the villain empire side of Star Wars, and I think it really opens up opportunity for future Star Wars collabs, which excites me. But in general, the colors were just amazing. Having all of those beautiful magnetics that work so well in both the cat eye style and the velvet style. Lord Vader was definitely a favorite of mine. I loved it in the cat eye style specifically. It really did look like lightsaber vibes to me with that like shining silvery white and then the red surrounding it. So stunning. Imperial Stormtrooper was definitely the standout of that collection because it was both a thermal color changing polish and it also was magnetic. So I've never seen that before. I thought it was super cool. I was really excited to play around with it. But just in general, I have been having such a moment with magnetics. I feel like I've been using them so much, especially this year. And to have a full collection of them where they really just felt so intense and charged, I absolutely loved that. There was one non-magnetic of the collection called Star Destroyer, and that one was also really beautiful. I feel like it did get a little bit overshadowed by the magnetics because I love magnetics so much, but that one is a really stunning silvery flaky and it's just so reflective. And then the other one was the Cadillacer Interplanetary collection, which I reviewed at the beginning of the year, and I immediately fell in love with these polishes. Another space themed collection, and I found that these were just so incredibly unique. There was a really nice combination of thermal color changing polishes. We had some flaky polishes, we had some magnetic polishes. Reliant Supergiant was my absolute favorite of that collection. It was this really gorgeous deep teal base that had silver flakies in it as well as a red magnetic shimmer, and when you did the cat eye style, it just looked so unreal and spacey. I also absolutely loved the 2 thermals in the collection, especially Many Moons. That one was so beautiful and it did definitely give a sort of planetary vibe to me, but what I thought was really cool, especially in the colder state, was I thought it just kind of looked like that bokeh that you get when lights are kind of out of focus, and I thought that was just so stunning. I've never seen anything like it before, and it was just a really special collection. So I ended up wearing that one a lot this year. I found it to be so unique. Every time I wore it on my nails, people were always so curious about the polish because it really just didn't look like any other nail polish, you know what I mean? So I thought that was really fun. Okay, before we get into my number 1 favorite collection of 2024, I do want to go over some honorable mentions really quickly. This was honestly really hard because there were some collections that I absolutely loved that just couldn't make it to the top 5, but I really wanted to call them out because I thought they were incredible. So I do have 4 honorable mentions, but we'll go through them quickly, I promise. First up is the Orly Aqua Aura collection that came out for spring 2024, and this was just a standout collection to me because I'm not a huge fan of spring collections in general, although you probably couldn't tell from this video because I feel like I've mentioned a lot of them, but I just thought this was such a special collection because it managed to take everything that I like about summer shades and kind of apply it to a more springy palette. So even though we had these softer, more springtime colors, they were still very vibrant, very saturated. I thought the color combinations with the shimmers were so beautiful and the formulas were really nice and opaque. I ended up wearing this a lot more than I expected to. Usually I kind of just stick within a more summery palette in the springtime, but I I ended up really loving that collection. My next honorable mention is the Starly Pie Day Trio. This one I wanted to mention because I feel like it just did not get enough attention. This was a trio of nail polishes that came out in March 2024, of course, to celebrate Pie Day, and there were 3 really stunning polishes that I feel like definitely got overlooked. There was a really beautiful rose gold hollow that was just so sparkly. We had this gorgeous golden orangey shimmer metallic kind of shade, and then there was this really interesting neutral that had blue flakies in it, and I just thought they were all so cool, really different. I loved the inspiration being Pie Day and kind of having that sort of sciencey feel to it, and yeah, I just feel like those were very underappreciated polishes, so I gotta mention them. I thought they were incredible. My next honorable mention is the Holotaco Birthstone collection. This one came out in October and we had 12 polishes, one for each month of the year, and this was another collection that I really loved because there was so much exploration of different types of finishes, and I just thought it was really fun. I feel like this collection ended up being slightly controversial because I think that's something that's hard, where people have sort of an idea of what they want their birth month to look like or their zodiac sign, stuff like that. But I think regardless of the specific months, all of the colors were really beautiful and the formulas were great. I really enjoyed that collection. I really enjoyed the colors and I ended up wearing those a lot. And then my final honorable mention would be the Mooncat and Powerpuff Girls collab. I just thought that was a really fun collab and I loved the opalescent jelly flaky polishes in there. I thought they were super fun. I feel like my camera did not do those polishes justice because there were some really beautiful iridescent flakies that look so much more interesting in real life that just don't get captured properly on camera. Of course, being a purple lover, the Diabolical Mojo Jojo was just a standout polish for me, and that really felt like such an indie style polish, and I thought that was so fun. But just in general, they felt so bright, they felt so exciting, and I really love that nostalgia factor as well. But now let's get into my number 1 favorite collection of 2024. It might come as a surprise to you. This is the Mooncat Songs of Sirens collection. And this one came out in April 2024. This was a collection that I just could not get enough of. I have to say, for me, this was the year of Mooncat. I loved every single collection they came out with. It was so hard for me to decide on favorites just because I found myself going back to Mooncat so many times, and I feel like all of their unique collections were just so impressive this year. But Songs of Sirens just really spoke to me. I think the color story fits my personal style so perfectly. I loved the siren vibes. I love a mermaid kind of vibe. Anything oceanic and mysterious and a little bit evil kind of speaks to me. We had 9 different colors in that collection, and we had a variety of finishes between flakies and shimmers, multi-chrome. We had a couple of thermal color changing polishes. So it was really fun to play around with, and I did end up wearing that collection probably the most this year. It's honestly so hard to pick standouts in that collection because I just loved them all so much. I especially loved the shade Maelstrom, which was that darker teal that had the iridescent flakies in there. It just felt so beautiful and oceanic and just a little mysterious to me, and I loved it. Also, the thermal shade Treachery in the blue I thought was absolutely perfect. I loved that mixture of having that soft neutral in its warm state and then that beautiful blue in its cold state. But I also really enjoyed the other thermal, Dark Omens, which was a purple on purple thermal, so of course I was gonna love that one. I'm actually wearing one of the shades right now, which is A Most Destructive Melody, and that one was more of a multi-chrome vibe. Absolutely gorgeous. I don't even think my camera did that one justice, but yeah, that was just an absolute favorite collection of mine, and I felt like it was such a beautiful combination of unique colors. I just felt like every polish in that collection was such a hit, and I thought the inspiration was so unique and interesting, and I just loved the combination of colors and finishes. So definitely another absolute perfect collection to me. I thought it was stunning. But yeah, that is my top 5, aka I think I had 10 favorite collections of 2024. Like I said, I really think this was the year of Mooncat for me because there were so many collections that I loved. And honestly, if I think about it, I would probably have picked the Darth Vader collection to be my favorite if I had a little bit more time with it. But I wanted to be fair to the Songs of Sirens collection because I ended up wearing that so much more. But that's also possibly because I had so much more time with it. But in general, I loved all of these collections. I just kept on going back to them. There were so many more collections that I loved this year as well that I also wore repeatedly, but these were the ones that I thought were pretty much flawless. In addition to this video though, I also like to do a yearly top of the year polishes. So not just collections, but in individual polishes that I really loved and kept going back to, so stay tuned for that. That'll be coming soon. But yeah, I'm curious to hear what your favorite collections of the year were. Do we have any overlapping favorites? What do you think of my picks? Let me know yours in the comments. We can chat about it. And if you enjoy my favorites videos, please hit that like button. It really helps me out. It lets me know I'm doing a good job. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe, and I will see you all in my next video. I hope you have a happy new year. Bye. I feel like I talked a lot, so let's do a fun fact question real quick. Okay, this is a good one. Would you rather be seated on an airplane between a couple that's arguing or next to a crying baby? So I feel that this is a very easy one because one of those options I would find very entertaining for the whole flight. And that would be the couple that is arguing. I feel like that would be the perfect in-flight entertainment. I'm not wishing that on anybody. But I feel like that's like a real life movie, you know, kind of exciting. And then at some point I would also just be like, hey, do you guys want to sit next to each other? And then I would watch from a distance and try to overhear. I think it would be a lot harder for me to sit next to a crying baby because that's a tough thing to deal with on a flight. I would feel bad for the parent, of course, but I would also be like, I don't know if I could deal with it. And also sometimes, I don't know if this is TMI, but I feel like babies can sometimes be a little sick on planes and I wouldn't want to be like in the splash zone. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know. I would easily choose the couple arguing, but let me know your thoughts in the comments and I will see you all in my next video. Bye.